Prize in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 2031. Whew, we're getting up there in numbers. We're actually going for, where did I write it down? I think it's 2,191, I think, is the end of year 6. I know I wrote it down here. Where did I put it? 2,191 days will give us 6 years. So we're getting there. We're 291. So 160. We're 160 days away from hitting our 6-year mark. Isn't that awesome? How cool is that? That's going to be so much fun. And yes, I will have Casey on. And yes, I'll be broadcasting from New Zealand on that one. But we'll have Casey on as well. And we'll, like we have every year, July 31st, me here. Put it in your calendar, because it'll be day 2,191 days, which is the eve which is our New Year's Eve, because day 1,992, the next day, is when we start year 7. My gosh, can you believe it? 6 years. Wow. Anyway, what are we talking about tonight? Tonight, we are talking about genealogy through the generations, getting kids and grandkids involved. Our question for you this evening is, how do you share your family history with younger generations? What's one way you've made genealogy fun for your kids or grandkids? Actually, I'm just going to put their kids and grandkids because, let's just include them all. So how did I discover family history? It was really cool. My grandparents had these old photo albums that they had a little nook off to the side, and they had these old photo albums that would sit there. And there's times I would take the photo albums out and they'd start telling me stories about the photos in there. And then I got to the point where I would go to their house and I would pick up the corner of the albums and look through till I found a picture that I liked the story of. And then I would ask them to tell me that story. So that's how I got involved. So through photo albums, you can involve children and grandkids in learning their family history, especially if you find you've got somebody famous in the tree as well, or some really cool story. Just make it fun. And studies show that kids who know family stories are more resilient. Knowing where they came from helps them feel connected. So what are some fun activities to get the kids and the grandkids interested in genealogy? How about a family history scavenger hunt? Yes. Oh, I love these. Create a list of family-related items for kids to find around the home, like old photos, birth certificates, family heirlooms, marriage certificates, that sort of stuff. Even if you have a picture of the genealogy up on the wall as well, you can even pick out names from that they have to go and find on there and put down what their relationship to that person is. That'll be something for the older ones to do. And then when they get all the objects together, challenge them to match the family members to those objects. Who did that object belong to? Who was this object belong to? You can have a prize for completing the scavenger hunt. Just make it fun. Number 2, storytelling night. Oh my gosh. I love storytelling. I love listening to stories. I love telling stories. I would always love listening to my older generation, like my grandparents and their siblings, telling stories. Even my aunts and uncles, I love to sit there and listen to the stories that they have to tell. So let the grandparents or the older relatives tell a fun or dramatic family story. And I come from a line of storytellers on my dad's side of the family. And my grandfather, he could spin a yarn. But I will tell you this, his 2 sisters, one of them was his twin sister, my Auntie Jean, and the other one was Auntie Ina. And when Auntie Jean and Auntie Ina are in the same room, they could sit there and just go together, telling each other the stories and all that. And this is the part that just blows my mind. They were also, at the same time they were telling their news, they were listening to the other person tell their news and were responding to it as well. Blew my mind. This is the family that's part of my genealogy. My 2 great aunts. I tell you, they were awesome ladies. I love my great aunts the great aunts that I got to meet and interact with were all awesome. And even if it was just for a night or over several months and everything else, or years, just getting to hang out with them and hear their stories, that's awesome. And while they're doing storytelling night, record it on audio or video for future generations. Encourage the kids to ask questions. Help them to see history as real, not just words on a page. The other one you can do with activity you can do, number 3, is build a family tree together. Use a poster board or a digital tool to create a tree. Have kids decorate it with drawings or stickers. And I will tell you this, kids love getting their hands dirty. Well, at least all the ones I know do anyway. And add fun facts about each ancestor to make it more engaging. So as they're putting the tree together and they're putting the people onto the tree, ask them what they know about that person. And then also go, well, did you know? Da 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 da. And instead of just names and dates, add interesting stories to make the ancestors come alive. It's always a great thing. Digital tools and apps can make genealogy fun for kids, since kids have been brought up on computers these days. You've got ancestry and family search apps where kids can explore interactive family trees and see historical records. Imagine bringing up a birth certificate of their great grandfather and saying that's when that was recorded when your great grandfather was born. Some apps offer timeline views to place ancestors in historical context, so they can see that time period that the people lived in. And based on where they're located, you could even add in what historical events were taking place at that time that they may have been interested. Did they serve in World War II? Did they serve in World War I? Did they serve in the Korean War, the Vietnam War? Going back through time, what wars did they get to fight in? The Civil War, the Spanish War? There's a lot of wars out there. It's sort of like heartbreaking, really, to hear about all those wars, because you know that people died in those wars, in battles and things like that too. So have a look at that and look at the historical context, what was going on around that area. Show them bring up old newspapers to show them some of the headlines of news at that time. Take them to the social pages and so they can read all the gossip. It just fascinates me about how people are gossiping all the time. And like they think, well, you really shouldn't say that. I'm like, just go back to the 1800s and look in the newspapers and go to the social pages in the newspapers. They're just huge gossip columns. Some of them spun off from the newspaper and became their own magazines or other newspapers. So, just show them some of the stuff that was, what was on the front page of the local newspaper on that day in whatever year it was. It's another way to get them engaging. If you go to MyHeritage, if you got MyHeritage, they have a tool. It's called Deep Nostalgia. They have a tool that animates old photos, bringing ancestors to life. I tell you, it's the creepiest thing ever. It's really cool, but it's also really creepy as well. It's a fun way for kids to engage with historical visuals. Google Earth, where did they live? Use Google Earth to map out where ancestors lived and compare how locations have changed. What was it like when they lived there? What does it look like now? It's a great activity for kids who love technology, and to see the differences of, a period of time can make. This is what their house looked like when they lived in it. This is what it looks like today if it's still there. It's a night and day. It can be a night and day difference, and it looks pretty much the same. And this has changed. That tree's a lot bigger. That tree's gone. They can see, like a spot the difference. They can spot the difference. Here's what it was when your ancestors lived there. This is what it looks like today. Spot the differences. It's a great tool for that. StoryCorps app helps family record interviews and personal stories to preserve oral history. Kids can ask grandparents questions and capture their voices forever. Kids today are visual learners. Using videos, maps, and animations can make family history exciting for them. Then, how do you pass down research for future generations? Number one, create a time capsule. Include letters, family stories, photos, small heirlooms. Seal it for future generations to open. It's great for family reunions or milestone birthdays to put a time capsule together or to open a time capsule. Either of those, at family reunions or milestone birthdays, let them know, hey, we're going to be doing a time capsule. Bring along something that represents this day and time. We're going to bury it for however many years, or put it in a bank vault for however many years, however you're going to store it and that sort of thing as well. And it's going to be opened on such and such a date. Number two, make a family recipe book. Document traditional family recipes and the stories behind them. What is the story behind the recipe? Did they come up with this really cool recipe? How did they come up with that recipe? What's the story behind it? Cook a family meal together and connect through food traditions. That's always a great thing, especially with kids. I love it when kids want to get up there and they want to help. And you say, okay, I need you to take this cup and I need you to fill it up. And then I need you to, show them how to measure flour in a cup or something and put it in a bowl and mix it in with some other things. Or giving them the spoon and they have to mix everything together for you as you put it in there for them. Use social media to share family history. Create a private family Facebook group to post photos and stories. Encourage younger family members to add their own memories as well. Print print a kid-friendly family history book. There are some great books out there for kids that they can go in and they can fill in the details themselves. And some of them are a little cartoonish, some of them aren't, but you can use photos, short stories, and simple language is what it's all written in. Add other fun facts like great-grandpa once rode a horse to school. We walked uphill both ways in the snow with bare feet in the snow to get to school. Just things to keep kids interested. Instead of overwhelming kids with detailed charts, highlight exciting family stories first, because that is what they're going to go for. That is what they're going to want to hear. They love hearing those stories. I even have cousins that say, "Hey, Helen, can you tell us the story about blah, 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 blah?" Sure. I'm always happy to sit down and tell stories. I love telling stories. So genealogy isn't just about the past. It's about bringing families together in the present. Try one of these activities that we've mentioned above with the child in your family this week, whether it's a scavenger hunt, a family tree project, or recording a grandparent's story. If you need any help with organizing it all, you can always reach out to us at Your Family Tree Detective for expert genealogy guidance. And start a conversation on how to share genealogy with younger generations. If you're in a family group, how can we share this with the kids to make it more alive for them? The stories of your ancestors shape who we are today, and passing them down keeps their legacy alive. Let's make sure the next generation grows up knowing where they came from. And always remember this. When we had Francesca on one time, she said, we are the future ancestors of, we are the ancestors of our future generations. Keep that in mind when you're talking about family history and all of that. You are recording your stuff today as ancestors of your future generations. Think about that. And with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch